Apple keeps strengthening its own in-house chip design year after year. So why then did it sign a long-term deal with an outside company, Broadcom, that runs all the way through 2031? I look at this news not as a story about engineering talent, but as a story about trust. In the semiconductor industry, the company that wins the next job isn't the one that says it can do it. It's the one that keeps going until the job is truly done. Today, I'll decode that essential truth through this single contract.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ty, with 31 years in the semiconductor industry. Today, I'm taking up the news that Broadcom has extended its custom chip supply agreement with Apple all the way out to 2031. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Apple keeps a firm hold on an external partner, even as it builds up its own in-house design. And you'll also see what Japanese design houses already have, and what they're still missing. All right, let's get into it. Let me start with a simplified analogy. Today's setting is a hamburger restaurant. Picture a giant burger chain with tens of thousands of locations all over the world. What defines the taste of this chain is a secret, exclusive sauce, a recipe that never leaves the company. It isn't some off-the-shelf sauce you can buy at the supermarket. It's a custom product developed for one purpose only: this chain's burgers. Plenty of customers come back again and again just for that sauce. It is, quite literally, the flagship flavor. The company that has been making this exclusive sauce for decades is a long-established food maker. Meanwhile, over at the chain's headquarters, there's a team of highly skilled product developers who keep creating new menu items and new seasonings entirely on their own. Their policy is simple: if we can make it in-house, we make it in-house. And yet, this one flagship sauce is the exception. They keep entrusting it to that outside, long-established maker. Why is that? Coming up with a recipe? Plenty of other companies could do that. Making a single tasty prototype? Even a small workshop could manage it. But delivering that sauce to every single store around the world is a completely different story. Across countries with different climates and different logistics realities, you have to hold the exact same taste, the exact same quantity, and the exact same delivery deadline every single day, and keep supplying hundreds of millions of servings a year. That is a job on an entirely different level from simply creating a recipe. If the sauce supply were to stop for even a single day, stores all over the world would be unable to serve their flagship item. And if the taste drifts even slightly, customers, without ever knowing the reason, will simply think, "This isn't the flavor I know," and drift away. And the entire chain's brand takes the damage. In other words, what this long-established maker is really selling is not the sauce itself. It's a promise. We will never let it stop, and we will never let it drift. And this time, the chain extended the contract, saying, in effect, "We're counting on you through 2031. Cheaper rivals and shiny new workshops will always keep appearing. And yet this maker was chosen because a track record of keeping that promise for decades is exactly what earns the next long promise." From here, let me explain concretely how this simplified story actually plays out on the real industrial front lines. On July 6, 2026, Broadcom disclosed in a document called an 8K filed with the U.S. securities regulator that it is expanding its technology collaboration with Apple out to 2031. An 8K is a disclosure filing that U.S. publicly listed companies use to promptly report material events to their investors. Broadcom is a major American semiconductor maker, well known for its business in communications chips and custom-built made-to-order chips. The substance of the deal is this: Broadcom will develop and supply custom ASICs that will be used across multiple generations of Apple products. An ASIC is a dedicated chip designed for one specific product and nothing else. Just like the sauce in our earlier analogy, it can't be repurposed for another company's products. It is, in effect, a made-to-order custom semiconductor. The specific product names and the contract's dollar value haven't been disclosed. That said, the filing does contain phrases like "for multiple generations of Apple products" and "a series of custom ASIC products." What we can read from that is this: it isn't a matter of building one single chip and calling it done. This is a long-running, large-scale project that spans multiple chips and multiple product generations. Behind this lies a growing trend. Across fields like smartphones, PCs, wearables, and edge AI devices, what matters more and more is not the general-purpose chips sold to just anyone, but dedicated chips tuned precisely to a company's own products. For Apple, this contract means locking in a stable supply. For Broadcom, it means securing an enormous, top-tier customer over the long term.
From here, let me dig deeper from a professional's point of view. In the wider world, this news tends to flow past in a single line. Apple and Broadcom extend their contract. But the place I pay attention to is somewhere else entirely. Apple keeps strengthening its own chip design capability, and yet it still refuses to let go of an outside company, Broadcom, all the way through 2031. Why? That's the question.
The answer, in my view, is not a gap in engineering skill. Of course, Broadcom's design capability is first-rate, but there are plenty of companies in the world that are good at design. What actually sets a company apart is not the superiority of its design assets, its design tools, or its design environment. It's the ability to take responsibility all the way through to the finish and carry mass production across the line. That, I believe, is Broadcom's real product. Apple products ship worldwide on the order of hundreds of millions of units a year. If something goes wrong with a dedicated chip, it hits the launch timing of a new product, the supply volume, and the quality assessment directly. From creating the chip's design data, to verification, to design for test, to the physical placement and routing, to packaging, to mass production testing, to yield improvement, and all the way to procuring the materials, every one of these has to be bundled together, and the product has to be delivered on the fixed schedule at the fixed quality in the fixed quantity. It doesn't end with just saying, we can do it. You do it until it's actually done. And then you deliver every last unit. And you stack that up not once, but over and over again. And that's how you build trust. Broadcom keeps getting chosen, I believe, not because of verbal promises, but because of this accumulated track record. In other words, because it has the resolve and the organizational structure to take on responsibility on a global scale. Here's another interesting point. This announcement was made in Broadcom's disclosure filing, not Apple's, and the dollar figure was kept private. For Apple, this is just one of many supplier contracts, but for Broadcom, it's an important deal that has to be shown to investors. Some analysts estimate that Apple accounts for roughly 20% of Broadcom's annual revenue, and I think this asymmetry captures the balance of power between the two companies rather well. From my own experience on the front lines, the thing I feel most keenly is what I call the valley between prototype and mass production. A paper gets published, a demo runs, a prototype chip is completed. The truth is, plenty of companies can reach this far. But from there on, committing to all of it at once, the volume, the quality, the delivery schedule, and the cost of mass production, the number of companies that can do that drops off sharply. Up to the near edge of the valley, it's a contest of technology. Beyond the valley, it's a contest of resolve and systems. This contract is the reward for a company that has kept crossing that valley again and again. So what about Japan? Japan does have excellent design houses, but taking on a project of Apple's scale, maintaining a development organization of several hundred to 1,000 people, committing to it over multiple years, and delivering a stable supply on a global scale? A company with a track record that includes all of that? Regrettably, I can hardly think of a single one. This is not about the ability of individual engineers. It's about whether a company, as an organization, has the resolve and the systems to take on responsibility on a global scale. To put it the other way around, as long as a company can put those pieces in place, I believe there is still a path open for Japanese design houses to go out and win that next job. Think back to today's hamburger chain story. What the long-established maker was selling wasn't the sauce, it was a promise. And what Broadcom is selling isn't the chip, it's trust. The company that commits and carries the job through to the finish is the one that wins the next job.
That, I believe, is the essential truth of the semiconductor industry.
That's all for today. I'll keep bringing you semiconductor news and analysis, so if you found this useful, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. This has been Ty on Semiconductor News Decoded.